Wuchang Fallen Feathers just dropped, and if you're like even remotely into Soulslikes or really any kind of dark action RPGs, you've probably already seen it floating around your feed, maybe pop up on your Game Pass recommendations or just, on the storefront. So this is one of my first proper dedicated game review video on the channel. Let's just chat about it, a real chill breakdown. No screaming about like this is the greatest masterpiece since Elden Ring or any of that hyperbole, just me talking about what this game is, how it actually plays, what it nails, what maybe stumbles a little bit. You totally get the idea, just my honest take after spending some solid hours with it. So first things first, Wuchang comes from a Chinese studio called Lean Z Games, and get this is their debut title, like their very first big game release, and that to me already made it stand out because we've been seeing a lot more of these incredibly talented Asian studios jumping into the Souls-like space lately, and honestly, some of them have been going kind of hard. Think about it, Lies of P, that one completely surprised me with how polished and unique it felt. Wuchang Fallen Dynasty had some issues, sure, but it was still pretty sick in parts, especially the combat. And now Wuchang is here, and the vibe is just totally different from those. It's not trying to be super flashy or super frantic. It's not throwing a million jump attacks and parry animations at you every 2 seconds like some games. It's quieter. It's incredibly moody. It's a little rough around the edges sometimes, if I'm being honest, but there's this raw, almost broken beauty to it. The game literally just drops you into this incredibly atmospheric version of late Ming Dynasty China. So we're talking like the late 1600s-ish. But let's be super clear, this isn't some dry historical simulation. Nah, the entire world has been absolutely ravaged and taken over by this bizarre, terrifying, parasitic thing they call the feathering disease. And what does this disease do? Well, it's turning people, regular folks, into these grotesque, bird-like monsters. And it's not just affecting living beings, it's corrupting everything. The landscape, the architecture, even the very air feels heavy with it. You play as this really compelling protagonist named Bai Wuchang, and the kicker is she's already infected. Her left arm, or what used to be her arm, is now this gnarly, half-mutated, feathered, and constantly glowing appendage. So yeah, right off the bat, from the absolute get-go, the game leans hard into body horror. It instantly brought me back to the feeling of playing Bloodborne, where your character is slowly succumbing to a plague and transforming. You're not just fighting these horrific monsters out in the world, you're literally becoming one of them yourself. And the game totally plays into that duality, which is just brilliant from a narrative perspective. Now, surprisingly, the opening hour or so of Wuchang is honestly pretty chill. Like, I wasn't expecting that for a Souls-like, right? You start slow, you talk to a few mysterious NPCs who give you cryptic clues, you slowly get introduced to the core mechanics, the very basics of combat, and then gradually it really starts to ramp up. The first big proper boss fight comes relatively early on, and it's not crazy difficult, but it's definitely enough to make you sit up, pay attention, and really focus. The game clearly wants you to learn its language to understand its rhythm, and honestly, I have to say I respect that approach. It's a good way to onboard you without feeling overwhelmed, which can happen in this genre. Also, before we keep going, I want to quickly show you something that's actually been super helpful while I was playing Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Because Wuchang Fallen Feathers is an Unreal Engine 5 title, some of you guys might struggle to run the game with good FPS on your PCs. So, it's this software called LogaFast. I've been using it for a bit now, and honestly, it's been kind of clutch. It helps boost your game performance, smoother FPS, less lag, and faster downloads. You just open it, pick the game, hit one button, and just like that, it starts working in the background. But what's really cool is they've built game-specific tools for Wuchang. So it's not just a booster, it's got actual features that help you in the game. Like it comes with this full map tool that shows boss locations, loot spots, and mission objectives. If you're like me and don't want to miss hidden stuff or get lost during quests, this is seriously helpful. I was able to track down loot I would have totally walked past, and it even helped me find better routes to avoid annoying backtracking. There's also this one-click FPS boost that actually works. Like, I noticed the game running way smoother in big combat areas, especially when the screen got full of effects and enemies. It's not just for Wuchang either. LogaFast supports over 1,000 games and it works in more than 60 countries, so whether you're into single player or online stuff, it's worth keeping around. And yeah, if you want to try it, there's a 30% discount code down in the description along with the download link. Setup takes like 2 minutes and it runs quietly in the background. Definitely check it out if you're planning to dive into Wuchang or just want to make your games feel smoother overall. Okay, now for the good stuff, the combat. This is, in my opinion, where it truly gets interesting. So, at first glance, yeah, it looks like your standard Souls-like combat. You've got your stamina bar, your dodging, you've got light and heavy attacks, weapon arts or skills, all that familiar stuff. But here's the thing, it genuinely has its own rhythm. It feels a little faster, a bit more aggressive than a Dark Souls game, but it's definitely not as twitchy or hyper-aggressive as Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and it's certainly not as combo-heavy or complicated as something like Neo. It just sits in this really nice, almost perfect in-between space. And they've also implemented this really cool mechanic called Skyborn Might. Think of it like a special meter that builds up as you execute perfect dodges and land clean, uninterrupted hits. And once that meter fills up, you can then unleash these powerful special moves or even magical attacks, depending entirely on how you've built your character. The really cool part about this system is that it actively encourages you to play aggressively, to stay in the enemy's face, but crucially, it doesn't encourage stupid aggression. You still absolutely have to time your dodges, you still have to learn every single enemy's attack patterns. This is definitely not a button mashing game. You mess around, you get wrecked. Simple as that. And speaking of builds, dude, the build variety here is actually pretty decent, which is always a huge plus for me in these games. You've got a solid arsenal of like 25 different weapons across various types: swords, spears, axes, dual blades, and probably a few more I'm forgetting. And each and every one of these weapons has its own unique moveset, its own scaling properties, and its own distinct strengths and weaknesses to really get to experiment. But it doesn't stop there. On top of the melee weapons, there are over 40 different spells you can unlock and slot into your loadout, like whether you want to go for a pure fire-focused build, incinerating everything in your path, or lightning elemental damage, ice, so you can go crazy with that stuff. And here's the actual game changer, something so many Soulslikes get wrong: they let you respec whenever you want, like a full, complete stat reset. You are not locked into anything. So if you start the game with, say, a fast dual blade build, and then halfway through you think, nah, you know what, I want to be a big, slow, powerful spear guy, you can just do that. It's such a blessing, honestly. It saves you from that crippling regret of committing to a build you suddenly hate 10 hours in. Yeah, let's talk about the vibe again, because honestly, that's where this game truly stands out to me. The entire world is just soaked in this incredibly eerie, slow burn atmosphere. The environments are consistently dark and misty, with these disturbing feathers seemingly falling all the time everywhere you go. And that's not just some visual gag either. That feathering disease is deeply ingrained in the lore, in the environment. You walk into a new zone and there are these half-destroyed temples, burned down villages, ancient statues with glowing malevolent eyes, and weird grotesque bird corpses just chilling on rooftops. Every single bit of it feels handmade. This is not an open world in the sprawling, checklist heavy Ubisoft way. It's much more like a series of interconnected areas, similar to how Dark Souls 1 or Bloodborne were structured, filled with intricate shortcuts that loop back to earlier checkpoints and plenty of hidden secrets to uncover. It feels tight, focused, and purposeful, and that's exactly what I love in games. And then there's this incredible madness system, which is intrinsically tied to your character's disease, and it's not just some lore fluff. It genuinely affects gameplay in a super impactful way. So the longer you fight and the more damage you take, the more your madness meter builds up, and once it gets high enough, yeah, you actually get stronger. You deal more damage, you move faster, it feels amazing, you feel powerful, but here's the terrifying catch. If you die with that madness meter maxed out, you drop your XP, or whatever the equivalent currency is, as usual. But now there's a twisted twist. twist. A corrupted, shadowy version of yourself actually spawns right there, right at your death location, and it actively guards your lost souls. So now, you've got to fight this AI version of you, equipped with your gear, your stats, your moves, just to get your stuff back. It's almost like a PvP encounter, but against your own twisted shadow. It's terrifying, it's punishing, but it's also undeniably genius. It creates this constant, delicious tension. Do you push your luck for that power boost, or do you play it safe? Decisions. Now let's talk about the boss fights and performance of this game. And honestly, man, the boss fights, they're solid. I wouldn't say every single boss is an absolute banger. Some of the early ones are a bit forgettable, maybe a little generic, but once you get deeper into the game, it really starts throwing some serious heat at you. Performance-wise, I can tell you it runs pretty fine on console, pretty much a smooth 60 FPS most of the time. The PC version is a little shakier from what I've heard around the internet. Some stutters here and there, especially if you're not running a super beefy rig, which, let's be real, not everyone has. But from what I understand, nothing truly unplayable. And yeah, the best part for many of you, it's on Game Pass, so you can just try it out without dropping a full $70, which is honestly kind of perfect for a game like this. No risk, just dive in. Now, as for the story part, so, well, like almost every Souls-like game, story is like, okay, so I'll be real with you here. It's definitely there, but it's subtle. You're not getting big cinematic cutscenes every 5 minutes, spoon-feeding you exposition. Most of the narrative is told through those classic Souls-like methods, item descriptions, really cryptic NPC dialogue, and just tons of environmental clues. It's very, very Souls-like in that particular way. Some players are absolutely going to love that, immersing themselves in the lore, digging for every scrap of information. Others I can totally see might find it a bit too vague or hard to follow. Personally, I think it works really well for this game. It matches the dark, mysterious mood. You're not really supposed to fully understand what's going on right away. You're meant to piece it together slowly through vibes and fragments and fleeting glimpses, but like, who even is Bai Wuchang, truly? What exactly caused this horrifying plague? Why is the moon a deep, ominous red in some areas? The game drops plenty of hints, but it never ever spells it out for you. You gotta dig for it. There are multiple endings too, which is awesome based on the choices you make and the side quests you complete throughout your journey. I won't spoil anything, obviously, but yeah, some of those endings are incredibly bleak, like humanity was a mistake, we're all doomed levels of bleak. Again, very on brand for this type of dark fantasy. And yeah, the UI is super clean. No clutter, no weird intrusive overlays, just your essential health, stamina, your madness bar, your Skyborn meter, and everything's easy to read at a glance. Inventory management is also surprisingly straightforward. You're not digging through a million convoluted tabs just to equip a new ring or swap out an amulet. It's efficient, and that's always appreciated. Now for final thoughts, should you play Wuchang? So, to kind of wrap this whole rambling session up, is Wuchang Fallen Feathers worth playing? I absolutely think so. Yeah, look, it's not a perfect game, it's a little janky at times, as I mentioned. The story is pretty vague for those who prefer more direct narratives, and it's definitely not as polished as, say, a first-party From Software title, but honestly, it's got heart. You can genuinely tell the developers, Lindsay Games, really cared about the world they were building, about the atmosphere they were crafting. The combat is genuinely fun, the exploration is consistently rewarding, and the overall vibe, just incredibly cool and unique. If you're into Soulslikes and you're looking to try something with a completely different cultural flavor and some really neat, innovative mechanics, this is absolutely worth your time, especially if you've got that Game Pass subscription. No excuses. Alright, I'm out here. Appreciate you all listening to me ramble on about video games. Peace out.